Have you ever wondered whether or not that you should stay or you should go in any relationships? Relationships really determine the outcome of our lives. As we're here at the beginning of this year, we need to start thinking about the kind of individuals that we allow into our lives because they determine the outcome of our lives. See, people either affect us in a good way or in a bad way. Have you ever met with someone, or have you ever been a friend to somebody that by being with them, you didn't do as many good things as you wanted to do? As a matter of fact, you found yourself doing things that you didn't want to do? Or have you ever been with somebody that every time that you're with them, you feel better about yourself? They're encouraging, they're a person who lifts you up, they always speak good words over you, and they always talk about believing in you. Well, that's really the way that this whole thing goes. So should you stay in a relationship or should you go? You know, interestingly enough, there was a time that a number of years ago in Boston, Massachusetts, where there were people who they never really wanted to give up on any individual in the mental health arena. They didn't want to throw people away. And there was a particular hospital that what they would do is that they would take in really the hopeless cases. But even if they thought that those cases that came before them were hopeless, they had only one place for them, and that was what they called the dungeon. Well, there was an older nurse who had worked inside of the facility, and she was just about to retire from her job. And while she was about to retire from her job, she decided that what she was going to do was she was going to spend her lunch hours down in the dungeon because she believed that no one was really hopeless. Well, there was a lady who was down there, and they called her Little Annie. Little Annie was a girl who, in the beginning of her life, things became so difficult and so horrible that Little Annie actually went insane. But she just didn't go insane. They had to really put Little Annie inside of a cage. And anytime that someone would go down there and they would actually see Little Annie, she would do one of two things. She would either attack and become very aggressive with this person who came to see her, or number two, she would ignore them. Well, this nurse who was about to retire, she decided that she was going to spend all of her lunch times sitting down there in front of Little Annie's cage. For the longest time, Little Annie just ignored her. But then what she decided to do was she decided to bring Little Annie some brownies, and she would leave them in by her cage. And during the time that they were there were times that she went back and nothing was done with those brownies. They just sat there. But she noticed that every Thursday when she would go in to be able to see Little Annie and just spend her lunchtime down there, that there were times that she went there and it began to be that Little Annie was eating those cupcakes. After a time, Little Annie began to accept her presence, accept her encouragement, and accept all these things about her. And finally, when she had retired, the doctors of that hospital, the ones that made the board of directors, that made the decisions of who was a hopeless case and who was not, decided that Little Annie could move upstairs with the rest of the proverbial inmates. But then there was a time that they were able to release Little Annie to go home. But Little Annie made the decision that she wasn't going to go home, but she was going to stay there. And she was going to encourage, just like she was encouraged, she was going to reach out to the people that everyone believed were hopeless. Queen Victoria, at a particular time of England, was asking Helen Keller how it was that she was able to serve so many people, love so many people, when she was actually deaf and blind. And she was giving her the highest secular award that was given to anyone by the Queen. This medal that she was giving her, only few people over time had actually merited getting this award. But even in the difficult way that Helen Keller had to be able to communicate how it all happened to her and how she made the decision to really give her life in service for other people, that she let the Queen know and all that those that were present was that she actually made the decision to give her life to serve, and she wasn't going to be a failure in life because there was no one hopeless. And she had learned this from someone whose name was Little Annie. Little Annie just wouldn't give up on anybody. And Helen Keller was one of the people that Little Annie wouldn't give up on. See, in relationship, the same thing is true for us. Have we given up too quickly with people, or have we stayed too long with people? We have to make that decision, which one that it was. And so I can tell you that the only reason why that I'm able to talk to you right now about these things in life, of should I stay or should I go in relationship with people, was because I learned how to distance myself from the wrong people and begin to pursue the right relationships of life. God's word speaks to us and it tells us, he said that the righteous must choose their friends carefully, for the way of the wicked will lead them astray. Joseph, the one that we all know in the scriptures, the Bible tells us in Genesis 37, it says there that now Joseph had a dream and he told it to his brothers. And you can see this. And it says there, and he told that dream to his brothers and they hated him all the more. Can you see what kind of effect that the people that you're with will have on you? One who chooses his friends carefully, that one just soars to new heights. But the one that tells his dream to the wrong person, that individual right there, where the Bible said that they hated him all the more, that's what happens to them. But how about somebody who was really a friend of yours, somebody that was really close? Now, Peter had this situation with Jesus. Jesus was now communicating to the rest of the disciples about what was going to happen to him and the things that were about to occur. And so Peter responds to Jesus, a friend, actually many say the best friend of Jesus. And as he is speaking to Jesus, he says to Jesus, oh, these things are not going to be far from you. These things are going to be far from you, Lord. This isn't going to happen to you. But then Jesus turned and said to Peter, he said, get behind me, Satan, because you do not care about the things of God, but you only care about the things of men. So that first one that we need to know is this. Just remember this, that every person is drawing you closer to or driving you further away from what is best for you. If any of us are ever going to succeed in life, it's going to be through difficulties. It's not just going to happen. It's hard, especially for you men. It's difficult. You grow through difficulties. You've got to have the hard times. Because remember this, hard times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. But then weak men create hard times, and then hard times create strong men. So for you men, you need to understand you're going to learn through suffering. Learn it in the closeness of relationship so that the world doesn't really give you all of that schooling that you don't want to have. Now, number two, you need to know this, is that relationship is never defined by what we get. It's never defined by what we get out of it. Well, this relationship's good for me because I just get all these good things out of it. No, relationship is never defined by what we get from it, but by finding one that is worthy enough of our loyalties. Are the relationships you have, are they worthy of your loyalty? Why? Because those relationships are relationships that are really going to determine the outcome of your life. So those relationships are not defined by what you get, but ultimately, you need to find someone that is worthy enough to be able to get the loyalties that you have in life. Not somebody that wants a short-term relationship, but somebody that wants a long-term relationship. In the book of Romans, chapter 12, verses 9 and 10, it says that let love be without hypocrisy. Let your love be without hypocrisy. Stop all the hypocrisy. Get rid of it. Abhor what is evil and cling to those things which are good. He said, be kind and affectionate to one another with kindness, brotherly kindness. He said, in honor, give preference to them. Remember, relationship is never defined by what you get, but it is defined when you discover someone that is worthy for you to be able to deposit your loyalties into. In the book of Luke, when Jesus was speaking about the golden rule, in chapter 6, verse 31, he said, and just as you want men to do to you, do also to them. Whatever it is that I want men to do for me, I'm going to do it to them and for them before they ever do it for me. And the ones that actually turn around and they bring those things to you, you'll then discover the ones that are worthy of your loyalty. Number three is that should I stay or should I go is really almost determined by understanding that it is impossible to exceed the standards that are set by the people closest to you. You can't hold higher standards than the ones that are set by the people that are close. If everyone around you, if they're just sitting around talking about the failures of life, those individuals are really going to drag you down. But how about if you had like 2 or 3 guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, in the book of Daniel, chapter 3, what about them? If they didn't have each other to be able to rely on to lift up the standards, one of them or 2 of them would have gone and worshiped at the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. But if you decide that you're going to get around people that hold very high expectations, that you're around people that actually make you own up to yourself, if you're around people that want you to be accountable, if you're around individuals that are consistently raising the standards of the relationship that you have, those individuals are people that are going to pull you up, not people that are going to drag you down. In Proverbs chapter 13, verse number 20, the Bible tells us this: he that walks with wise men shall be wise. You walk with wise people, you'll become wise. He never said that you were. He just said that you'd become that way. But a companion of fools is destroyed. Remember, it is impossible to exceed the standards that are set by the group of people that you're spending time with. Now, number 4 is this, and this is so important for you to know, that forgiveness. Should I stay? Should I go? The people around me, they need to understand forgiveness. That forgiveness is the perfume that the crushed flour oozes upon the foot that crushed it. I've got to be around people that can absorb the difficulties of my life. I've got to be around individuals that are willing to forgive me no matter what's going on with me. I've got to be with those individuals. That's so important. In the book of Matthew, chapter 18, verse number 15, it tells us that if a fellow believer hurts you, go and tell them. Go to them. Work it out between the two of you. Because if he listens, you've made a really strong friend. You can't live your life without forgiving the people that are around you. You've got to have those individuals really to be at a place of life where what you do is that you live in absolute forgiveness with them. Wrong things are going to happen. Bad stuff is going to occur. But yet at the same time, if you choose that you're going to live in forgiveness, I have a friend that I live in forgiveness with completely. There are many individuals, or the people that are around my life, the ones that get close to me, those are people that I've chosen already to forgive. No matter what happens, I'm going to forgive them. Even if I have to stand against them, I'm going to stand with them. I'm going to forgive, because forgiveness is the perfume that the crushed flour oozes upon the foot that crushed it. Would you help me? Would you help me take this gospel around the world? You see, even when the Philippian church did that, the Apostle Paul said, "Now you Philippians know that in the beginning of the gospel, no church was involved with me in giving and receiving, but you only." He said, "You sent once and again. You sent 2 times to my necessities." 2 times. The only thing that we know about the Apostle Paul being in Philippi was for a few weeks, or in Thessalonica. These Philippian people sent the Apostle Paul everything that he needed, even when he was in Thessalonica. And he turns around and he says, "And my God shall supply all of your need." So what I'm asking you is to help me take this gospel around the world. If you're interested in doing so, please, just go down below and there's a link there for you to click. Just click on that link and come and bring your tax-deductible gift to the Lord.